Naruto Uzumaki Chronicles was kind of a revolution across Japan due to its nature, taking distance from the fighting genre and focusing more on exploration elements. Although the result was not perfect at the beginning, a sequel could perfect all the ideas put on the table. Let's see how it turned out. Welcome to Naruto Uzumaki Chronicles 2. Today we will continue with our journey through the Naruto games, and clearly the sequel of Uzumaki Chronicles had to be on this review series. A game that at first sight I didn't like it that much, but hey, we were able to highlight its greatest strengths in its respective review. Unfortunately, many of those strengths remained as good ideas but without the financial or creative muscle that it needed to stand out. Luckily, I can say that Uzumaki Chronicles 2 is another story. Let's start from a key question. Why is this game remembered as such a good one? Let's break down the possible answer. Arriving a year after its first delivery, this new adventure would bring us once again an original story, without touching canonical events. Again, they would focus on a story that would exploit the virtues of this game system. This time, they would opt for a design and art style similar to the previous one. I liked it, but I honestly feel that this one, apart from being more rooted to the designs seen in games like Ultimate Ninja and Clash of Ninja, manages to give a visual feeling of greater game feel on the battlefield. The gameplay feeling was improved, everything was faster, easier to execute, it no longer felt like the commands pressed and the real-time representation on the screen were out of synchronization. The story was the one that in my opinion received the most attention and many new implementations. It was still an original story without telling anything related to the canon. However, this time they bothered to tell a correctly structured story mission after mission, opposite of what happened with the first game, which all of its missions were independent stories. Not only does the narrative have more weight and there is a story development in a coherent way, but they also gave the luxury of putting in boss fights, unique dynamics in the missions, finding objects, and even puzzles. They are not the most attractive things someone could come up with, but hey, I appreciate that the developers come up with new ways to interact with the story without always staying in the comfort zone. While facing all these enemies related to the puppet god, the increasing characters, whether playable or non-playable, within Uzumaki Chronicles 2 is noticeable. This makes the story feel more credible. There are real characters interacting with you constantly. During the course of the missions, they rotate the companions you have from Sakura, Neji, Kakashi, Shikamaru, Kankuro, among a few more. I'm sorry, Sasuke would not be in the cast this time. I suppose it's because of the period of the manga in which this mini-story is set, you know, after the Sasuke chase arc. This way, obviously the game would let us use more characters apart from Naruto like the first installment, and it's even better. Before, your partner had a limit time to stay on the field. It quickly changed to Naruto and didn't have a life bar as such. Now, you can have up to 2 partners at a time and all the respective health bars. You could change whenever you wanted between them, alternating in different offensive and defensive options. Each character had unique skills, but I can't say the same about the base of their combos. While Naruto had a full moveset with over 5 hits in light attacks and a couple of iconic heavy attacks, most of the other characters lacked of the well-created route of hits. To understand this, just look at Kakashi. He only has 2 hits on his square commands. Yes, he killed them with just 2 punches, but this hurt the game because it didn't give the player enough freedom to make their own combinations like the juggle of Naruto's shadow clones. Apart from a few exceptions like Rock Lee or maybe Neji, who were very entertaining characters to use and with some interesting aerial combinations. People wanted to see what other options the other characters had, but with these decisions they didn't let them do so. But remember, that doesn't mean that playing with other characters wasn't entertaining. If you're tired of games being too expensive, at Instant Gaming you can buy all the games you want at an incredible price. You even have the option to get pre-orders and gift cards with a big discount. I've been using it for several years now, and here are my latest purchases to show you guys that it's completely legit. Cheap, fast and safe. You can check it out in the link I leave you in the description down below. That would be a huge support for the channel. Let's get back to the video. Now the story progress wasn't so tedious, and on itself they added checkpoints to the half of the longer missions in case you died, something that happened constantly in the previous game, and they take the bother to ask you if you want to save your progress after each complete chapter. It's not the autosave, but they're pushing checkpoints into your eyes, and if you die, it's your fault that you lose your progress for being delusive. The soundtrack stuck more in my memory than the previous game. I feel that it has to do with how organic the story was now. It didn't feel so repetitive despite handling the same game scheme of accepting a mission, leaving the village, finding dogs along the way, completing the mission and returning to the Hokage's office, indirectly making the missions longer, having a better atmosphere and more character participation within the plot. Kedia, our dear developers of this game, took the opportunity that meant to already have a dozen playable characters and gave each one a skill scheme that could be complemented with the traits we obtained in missions, so our level of attack, defense, speed, chakra and others were being polished. Speaking of a very important topic, co-op mode was something added so that fans could enjoy this title playing with a friend, and although I understand why many players loved this decision, I must also highlight the shortage this game mode had. To kick off, it's easy to get a friend to join the game. Literally at any time you just have to press start and you will join. What happens is that by not opting for a split screen system, the camera of player 1 will always be focused on player 2. The freedom of movement of the camera is completely lost, and it's something that affects both players on a very important level. It was uncomfortable, truly uncomfortable. The time invested in the game ended up making you get used to this, but honestly, the players who were happy with this mode were asking for so little. I'm serious, I give you the most sincere and transparent of my apologies, but I can't love a game mode that looks like this all the time. Then here would be the versus mode, something that many fans of anime action and adventure games cry out for. However, it's not a game designed to have a versus mode, and I'm not surprised that it's so unbalanced. Just knowing that they are trying to have a fighting game where there's no button to cover, you can imagine how serious the approach was. It was fine for punching and kicking with your friends in a Naruto game that wasn't Clash of Ninja or Ultimate Ninja in those days, but otherwise the versus mode was dead boring. It was a gift for the players, but something that nobody asked for. On the other hand, the game had fanservice everywhere, and they didn't even conceal the favoritism that Lee's character had back then. They gave him a fast, spectacular moveset with hit confirms, and it looked as cool as possible. That they showed us the techniques that they used in the series and that they applied them to every situation, I couldn't stop enjoying it. Shadow Possession, the clones, Raikiri, and more. Everything had great value for those who were behind this project. The story helped the game a lot. They used sequences of blows in the dialogues, different camera angles. They didn't stay with the static images with the dialogue. It just became one of the most memorable adventure games of the PS2 for many players. I cannot deny its merit, and if something with this same concept arrived on these days, I would be more than happy to try it out. Guys, with that being said, we conclude Uzumaki Chronicles 2, without going into too much detail of the story or interactions that are presented. This is an adventure that is worth trying on your own. Tell me in the comments what you thought of this game. A lot of you told me that it improved many aspects of the first Uzumaki Chronicles, and although it's partly true, it also has its own up and downs. Which, for better or worse, it's a game that I enjoyed. It's quite good. Is it as good as the community presented right now? Of course not, but it's an improved version of its predecessor. Guys, thank you very much for watching. That was all for today, and I'll be watching you in the next video. Take care and see ya.